Welcome once again. I'm Charlie Greenberg, your host and moderator for Digital Business Demos. Thanks for joining us today as we continue to provide live business demos that focus on different digital transformation and platform strategies, and in particular demonstrate different components and products within Software AG's digital business platform. Today we're going to be discussing Dynamic Apps, which is Software AG's industry-leading low-code development platform, enabling Agile development of next-generation applications. And in just a moment, we'll be hearing from Rick McEachern, Vice President of Product Marketing and Business Development for Dynamic Apps. And if you're not familiar with Software AG, we're a customer-centric leader in many innovative and digital technology categories. Additionally, we have more than 4,300 employees, $1 billion in annual revenue, and we can cite over 70% of the Global 1,000 as customers. And those customers, well, they include over 2 million developers and citizen developers at leading organizations who have adopted Software AG products to innovate solutions and build applications cross-industry, across private and public sectors, and who rely on Software AG to help complete their journeys as digital enterprises through the end-to-end capabilities of the digital business platform. Please keep in mind that following today's presentation, we will provide, as usual, a Q&A session. So please use the WebEx Q&A box at the bottom right-hand side of your screen for any questions and comments. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Rick McEachern.
Hey, everybody. Good to talk to you today. I'm glad you were able to join in. Today we're going to talk about how you can use case management to really gain control and visibility of your collaborative work. And one of the things we want to do is demonstrate the new case management user interface that will be coming out shortly, give you kind of a preview of what will be there and how that would be facilitating work and productivity with your team. So for today, we're going to cover case management at Software AG. What is it? Some of the common use cases. What are the attributes you need to keep in mind as you're thinking about your next generation case management? We'll go through a demonstration, and then, of course, we'll field any questions you might have about topics related to this. All right, so let's begin. First of all, at Software AG, we have a lot of software, so it's easy to think about, to lose track of where case management might fit within the overall offerings that Software AG has. And if you think about the types of capabilities that Software AG delivers in helping you reach your digital transformation goals, one key building block is process and applications, and that's that blue box highlighted in the middle there. That includes everything from low-code application development to process creation and automation, mobile, accessing your work mobilely, doing task and work management rules, content, robotic process automation, and yes, case management. And so case management is what we're going to focus on today because case management is an interesting work pattern. Case management has attributes of all of these other types of capabilities, whether it's rules and task management or process automation, low-code customization, how do you access content, whether it's coming from different channels or maybe it resides in a system that's completely external to the case management system. But how do you coordinate work in a case management application using all these types of capabilities? And that's what makes case management very interesting, that's what makes it very powerful, and that's what we're going to focus on today. So, where does it fit? I mean, clearly there's many different types of process work patterns that we're familiar with, we've all experienced. There are work patterns that require that are fully automated, that require maybe no human intervention at all in the process. And you could think of that as maybe an order to cash process where maybe a person only needs to get involved if there's some kind of exception that needs to be handled and something didn't work as planned. So that's a highly structured type of workflow, straight through, and that's one type of process we're all familiar with. Then there's partially automated workflows where tasks get assigned, they can be routed to different people for approval, and really the only human interaction is to approve or reject certain types of requests. And so this is another type of one, somewhere between structured and dynamic. And then dynamic case applications is at the other end of the spectrum, where when we say dynamic, it means that you don't know ahead of time necessarily which route the solution to the problem is going to take. It could be something that requires pulling in a colleague that has never participated in a case before, or it might take on a process that is partially structured but has elements of ad hoc tasks involved. And so this work is highly exploratory. It can be investigative in nature. It could deal with things like complaints, where when a customer service rep picks up a phone to answer a call, he really doesn't know which direction this thing is going to go right away. And so there may be aspects of that application that require business rules that can fire automatically. There may be workflows, there may be emails and communication to collect more information, and of course there may be collaboration with other agents to figure out the resolution. Our perspective at Software AG is that no matter which end of the spectrum you're at, you need one platform that can deal with whatever you're encountering, and to be able to move applications from one end to another. So for example, you might have an order to cache process that has an exception, and in that case, you want the exception to be managed as a case management style application. And so how is that exception managed, who's involved, what processes are followed, how's it documented, how's it automated. And so in that case, you're pulling in aspects of functionality from the highly structured to the dynamic, all on one platform, and this adds a lot of value. So we're going to focus really on the right-hand side, dynamic case management, what's involved, and focus there today. I guess the key thing here is that this is a more common work pattern, a very popular and common work pattern that people are using. And it doesn't really matter which industry you're in. There's a lot that's common across every industry. There is invoicing and payments, there's contracts, everybody's got employees, they need to onboard or process employee issues, you've got vendors, you have customers. Even if you're a government entity, your customer is a citizen, you've got projects you want to manage. You've got complexity that comes whenever change is managed. There's all kinds of requests that come in, whether it's to change my plan or to move my cubicle from one building to another. Of course, customer service agent, we talked about that a minute ago, dealing with complaints and how do you process them with transparency and collaborate with your team members, and then exceptions and incidents and so forth. And the point is that no matter what industry you're in, you're going to find that there are similar patterns that occur, and these challenges of how do you manage these types of activities around these actions in this gray bar here. And case management is a perfect fit for that. So in the insurance industry, there is customer onboarding, there's policy underwriting, there are claims. And if you think about each one of these types of applications, they're a perfect fit for case management. In the case of a claim, something happened and you want to document it, you want to take pictures of it, you want to verify that whatever the claim is, it's consistent with your coverage. You want to integrate that with your back-end system and make sure that this customer is entitled for the claim that they're making. You want to answer questions of the customer and document those. You want to be able to have an audit trail of all the interactions and communications with that customer. And so case management is a perfect fit. Many of us have been through the loan origination process, same thing. It's a case management style of application where all the information related to and processing of a loan is collected in a central case and routed through different groups who participate in qualification, certification, information, verification of the information to determine, is this an investment product that we're willing to offer to a particular client. Same thing's true in healthcare, case management. Very complex issues dealing with health of clients, their treatments, medical interactions, different types of people that are involved, which providers can provide which services, provider networks. These are all great examples of how you can use case management there. In government, Citizen 311, big deal. Governments are using this everywhere to provide higher service levels to their citizenry. So if there is a pothole in the street, they want to be able to provide a system whereby customers can report that. If a citizen smells gas, they need to be able to respond to that more quickly, attach an SLA to it, get different fire groups mobilized so they can fix that issue before it becomes a health and safety issue. And so the governments are using this increasingly to provide higher levels of service and to also automate their operations. So they can do smart city type of activities where they're able to get information from things like lights, when they're on, when they're not on, what needs maintenance, and case management fits the bill there as well. And then in energy, of course, permitting, land use, property permits, improvement permits, rate setting, all of these are common use cases across energy and utility companies as well. Your industry may not be represented there, but I promise you these common patterns and challenges are there for you, and case management's a great fit. All right, so what makes case management, what kind of is it? Because it's a different kind of application pattern. And really you could think of a case as a collection of information, right? It could be information about transactions, products. It could be a set of documents that are required. It could be a set of tasks that are done or need to be performed, about issues that arise, exceptions, problems, anything that requires collaboration and processing. And to make that happen, you're going to use a set of capabilities. You're going to use some process automation to help you not only route common types of cases to the right people, but also ad hoc case management, so you can create new tasks for new people. You're going to use some rules management to help set priorities for the types of issues that are raised. As I mentioned before, is it a customer raising an issue of pothole, which we can get to in a city can get to in a couple weeks, or is it an issue of smelling some gas, which has to be resolved within, let's say, an hour or something like that? Content management. Content comes in all kinds of forms, formats, links to websites, or it's a scanned image of a driver's license that needs to be attached and processed and used, or W-2 or documents or PDFs. It just doesn't, it could be a wide variety of content that comes in that's got to be managed as part of a case context. How do you assign tasks and work? That's part of it. How do you access that information on your mobile device? Because these days, if you're an insurance agent, for example, we talked about that use case, you're in the field. You might want to process the case where you're talking to a customer, take pictures of a damaged house or automobile and attach that to the case or any other documents that are relevant to the processing of that case. It's got to be easy to customize and use. So low-code app development is a big part of case management because the idea of cases is that they can respond quickly to changes that occur based on customer requirements, based on what you see in the field as subject matter experts are using these tools. And so this needs to be something that can be easily adjusted and customized. And then finally, orchestration. There are some processes across the company that are fixed, relatively fixed, and then there are some processes that need to be can be changed on the fly and managed on the fly, where new process snippets can be executed and run and even inserted into existing long-running processes. And so you need a platform that supports all of these things. So case management enables you to really look at a case from a consolidated viewpoint and manage the information, manage the processes to help you solve complex problems from a central collection point for all this information, which is the case. There are a couple different types of cases. If you sort of group the applications together, they kind of fall into a couple of neat little categories. One category, of course, is incidents, and you could think of this as it could be customer complaints, corrective actions, it could be slip and fall accident somewhere, and these are incidents. And incidents require incidents are an exception. Incidents are not something that's planned. They happen by accident, and they are things that need to be managed completely. And sort of the nature of these types of things is that they need to be reported upon. So certain actions are associated with different types of cases, such as, am I able to collect information? Can I prioritize what happened? Can I document it, classify it? Can I report on it? You know, in one particular client's case, whenever they run a series of hospitals, and whenever a particular someone falls at the hospital, reports have to be filed with the state. There's requirements about what's filed, and so it has to be documented with witnesses, and forms have to be complete. And so there's a whole case application around what happens if someone falls while they're under the care of professionals at a hospital. Just an example. Request is the other type, and there's so many applications that fall into the request category, and this involves things like onboarding. We've all been through an onboarding process where a company requests information from you, and then they use that information to provision your account services so that you can do business with them. That is a case pattern that's supported. Claims is another one. Proposals is another one. And so the idea here is that you want to be able to take certain actions regarding requests, and that's how do you assign responsibility? How do you track the tasks that are going to be required? How do you capture details and manage those details? And so request style is a very common use case as well. In fact, I heard of the scenario of an airport that I was actually treating every single landing as a micro case, right? So you think about it, a plane comes in, crews have to be assigned, things have to be cleaned, food has to arrive, people have to be boarded, security checks have to take place, on and on and on. The luggage has to be loaded. All these tasks and assignments are associated with getting a plane from landing through takeoff again, and so you can use this pattern to support that. And then finally, investigations. And so, something that needs to, something where compliance is required, or you need to collect information for review, something that needs to be done where best practices are involved. And so the actions here have to do with auditing and enforcement, where you really want transparency, you want governance to be applied, and so these types of actions are associated with these types of cases. And so the point here is that almost any application pattern that requires collaboration and information from your colleagues can fit into the case management style pretty well. And so that's what we're excited about, because this software allows you to manage those cases with a great deal of ease of use. And so what do you need to look at as you think about your case management system? One is, how easy is it to use? Can you use it to engage with your customers in a collaborative way, and so in a flexible way? And so user experience is extremely important. The next key thing you should look for is it designed for change? And so this is something that we'll be showing more in future webinars. But how do you add new fields? How do you customize it as requirements change? Regulatory changes happen all the time. How do you adjust for those things? And is it designed for change? The third key point is that you want to know, is it accessible to subject matter experts? No longer is it okay for the case management system to be created centrally and rolled out, and subject matter experts can add dashboards, reports, update business rules. Now, there may be certain people who are designated to do this, but how do the non-technical people interact with the platform to customize it and change it and make it what they need to process their work and to process their work more efficiently? And so how friendly is it? How accessible is it? That's the third key thing to look at. And then finally, end-to-end task automation. And you see the little robot there. It's robotic process automation. And in any process, there's a lot that can be automated through the software in a case management system. Now, there's many tasks still across all of these vertical industries that are clerical or that are manual and mundane, where you might get a file from a customer and you have to open that file and you have to retype in information from that into fields into a case management system, or maybe you're connected to multiple systems and you want to copy information from one system to another system so that everything works the way it needs to work. More and more, robotic process automation is going to streamline that manual clerical data query and entry task activities. So you want to make sure that your case management system works well with robotic process automation as well. So these are the four key things to look for: ease of use, design for change. Can subject matter experts really change it? And then, is it able to automate even those tasks that are very manual and time-consuming? That reduces error and increases information accuracy and auditability. And so that's where robotic process automation comes in. All right, so quick overview of that. Now what I want to do is switch over and give you a demonstration of a new user interface that we've been working on. So let's switch. All right, so this is what we call Dynamic Apps Platform Agile Edition. It is a web-based user interface. It is designed as a cloud-native interface. It's multi-tenant, that is ready to go in the cloud. It can also be deployed on your premises if you have a need to do that. And we have clients who do both. In the cloud, we manage it for them. On premises, the customer manages their own deployment. That's fine. You get the same capabilities both ways. This is the starting point for your application experience on your home page, where you can quickly see at a glance which application is currently selected, and you can see what other applications are installed into this tenancy. We provide a library of additional applications, up to 35 additional applications that you can browse, you can look at. If it's something that you want to use, you can download that into your tenancy and you can customize it, or you can use it as it is. Likewise, you can create applications that can be shared among your colleagues, and so applications can be packaged and shared as well. So here we're looking at an application called Big Yellow Chair. And for the purpose of today, we just created a scenario where Big Yellow Chair is a chair company, and we're going to be processing requests for chairs. And in this scenario that I'm creating, we're going to be able to demonstrate a lot of usability of what's in this new user experience. So first of all, I want to point out that you can also switch applications no matter where you are in the application through the contextual menu at the top that allows you to select the other applications that you want to toggle to. You're not going to lose your context. You can switch back and forth as you need to. And in fact, you can create applications that have shared resources between other applications. And so this is an important feature of the application. So, you might have an application that has a core vendor object, and you could have multiple applications that reference that vendor object. in the application, but you could switch to different applications and use that information within the context of that app. Next, I'll point out that there is a global search. No matter where you're at, you can search on keywords that occur in records anywhere in the app, and you'll see the results. So I can search on just a word and come up with a record, and it could be in the subject, it could be in the description, it could be anywhere. And so global search is a handy feature because it helps you find information very quickly. Notification icon is up here. If new information changes while I'm using the application, maybe someone sends me an email that includes an attachment, I'll get a notification here, so it brings my attention to it, and I can go manage that information. I'll also point out you have the ability to create users that have multiple roles. And this is like it is in real life. I might have one application where I'm the manager of that application and another application where I'm a participant in the process. And so I might be an agent or a user, regular user in one application, and the other one I might be an approver level of authority. And so you have the ability to have different roles that are associated with the user. And in this application for Big Yellow Chair, for ease of use, I am assuming the role of both a manager and a user, so I can toggle between them and show you different perspectives as I do that. All right, so that's the basic orientation of the screen. Down the left-hand side, of course, you've got dashboards, which is a useful place to see summarized information based on the real-time data that's in the system. Data that could come from web forms, data that could come from integrations, data that have been entered by a user. And so dashboards summarize that in charts and tables, and of course this is a completely extensible and customizable, and so you're able to drag and drop and move things around and reorder it the way you want. You can also create brand new dashboards and let's see here, and customize the way they appear. You might say that for you know, a particular customer service agent is just really more efficient to go to a 3-column layout. Let's get more information on the page for them so they can see information that's already there. And you can easily customize dashboards to pull in additional information that's useful. So I can click on any one of these widget launchers and I can pull in a report. I can have HTML that calls information and pulls it into the dashboard from another system. I can pull in a view, or I could write a custom Java server page to create a chart or a graph or something else that was unique to my business. So easily customizable. I can pull in a new report, for example, and I could say, yeah, let's do a report based on open task by owner. We'll just look at the chart. All right. So pull that in, and I can, of course, customize that. Say, well, this is really should be, you know, a little bit bigger. Okay, easily customizable, very visual. That's one of the key foundational points of the new user interface. Next thing I will point out is that the information that's on the screen here can be shared, right? So if you've created some very useful charts and dashboards you want the rest of your team to have access to, you can set who should see this page. And here I have the option of just saying, nope, this is just for me, it's visible only to me, or I can say this dashboard's visible to everybody. Or I could go in and say, all right, you know what, this is visible to specific roles. And in that case, I could say it's visible only to manager role, and I could save that. And now if you have the role of manager, then you're able to see this dashboard, and if you don't, then you won't. So highly customizable. You can also limit it to teams or specific users. And then finally, you might decide that, all right, this is good. We've been talking about this from the customer service angle. That's fine. But let's say, for example, what we want to do is create a brand new dashboard. That can be done as well. Maybe you want to create a new dashboard for finance. So we have numerical information in there that only that role can see, and so you're able to create brand new dashboards as well. All right, I don't have anything in there as yet. We'll work on that later. So flexible way to see what you need at a glance to process information. All right, the next thing is, since this is a request application, let's take a look at the request records. And the way this is organized is that everything is visual. It's not hidden behind drop-down menus. So as we're looking at the request, these are rows in a table that are requests for chairs in our scenario, just a scenario. And up at the top, we see different kinds of views. For example, I can say, show me all the active requests, or just all the new requests. And the views are filtered ways based on the criteria that you provide to show you the information very quickly. And because it's all visual up here, it means users can get to the information they need faster. You, of course, have the ability to edit views, and so you'll see that this works very much like how we edited a dashboard or the controls that we had there. I can either create a brand new view based on information, or I can edit a view. And in this case, I could say, well, what I really want to do is see some additional information. So when I'm talking to the user, I can see which city they're in, and that'll help me connect with the user, let's say. All right, so I modified this. Okay, maybe I didn't save that. You can modify the view to show you additional information. Oh, I didn't save it. Oh. Right. And here we go. So now I can see which city they're calling from, and so I can talk to them about how about the Red Sox when I process their order. Anyway, it's a customizable view management system, so you can customize the information as you want, and you can process additional actions to view details, assign this case to somebody, or print it as you go. Let's take a look at a process. Let's take a look at one in action. I'll open this up first, and we can see a couple of things. Because this is a case system, cases carry attributes of priority and status. So I can see as I go through this what priority has been assigned to it and what's the status. Is it open, new, closed, resolved? These are all settings that you can customize for your specific use case. Of course, it'll be different by industry what those status words say. But here we can see that there is a form that's been set up that lets me track when people request a new order. I can see that there is a section of the form that deals with the price. We're willing to quote the user and submit information about the record itself. I can add new fields. I can customize this. I can rearrange this form any way I want. That's the key attribute of the platform and of this application environment. So don't need to be a programmer to do that. It's easy to add and change and move things around. Let's create a brand new we'll create a brand new record in just a minute and walk it through its life cycle. But first I'll show you some additional capabilities. So there's some, so this is the form environment. It's completely customizable, but along with processing the form, a user needs to be able to see contextual information that's important to the handling of this form information and processing of the case without leaving the case. And this is critically important because you don't want people tabbing between applications. That's not productive. And so over here, we've got a bar that shows additional contextual things you can do, such as notes, activity history, tasks, processes, attachments, work logs, and then quick links. So we'll go through each of those because they're present with me as I'm looking at the case and working a case. It's super helpful. Now, we're looking at notes first. Now, notes are important because you've got two different ways you can add a note to a case. And this works just like it does if you're doing an analog case in the real world. I mean, you can add notes to a case file. And I could say, you know, this looks like an important customer. All right, so I can add a note to the case file. And all right, I can also send an email. So here's where I might add a note to the case file, but it's a request for some collaboration with a colleague. So I'll just send it to myself for now. Can you please help with this? Okay. And please review, something like that. All right, so I can also send emails, and emails then can bring in colleagues with a link back to the case so they can then add comments, they can review, they can help collaborate as you go along. So I'll go ahead and send this email. And since I send it to myself, I should receive a notification in just a minute that I've received a request for help. All right, here we go. And then I've got the link that takes me back to the case where I can then comment on it, help my colleague process the case, and proceed from there. All right, so adding notes, adding emails to case is really important. How does that show up in the activity history? First of all, everything you touch in the application needs to be part of the activity history so that it can be audited and so that you've got a transparent trail you can look at when you're answering customer information. Like, when was a record created? You sent me that content. When did you receive it? I sent you that email. When did that happen? Here you've got a timeline view of everything that's happened that touched this particular request. From the first time the record was opened to when the priority was changed down here. It's changed from P3 to P1 to when the system sent out an email. And I could say, well, what is that email? And it brings it up. And here is the acknowledgement email that was sent as part of the activity history, so you can see it at any point in time. And we can see when notes are added to the system, and we can see, of course, when emails are sent to colleagues for participation. And of course, I can filter this in different ways. So what are messages and notes? Just show me the files that are attached and so forth. So you can quickly get at the information you need while you're talking to the customer. So this is an important feature we've added, and it really simplifies the whole view of the timeline as you're processing a case. Next thing is tasks. And this is important because as you're processing a task, as you're processing a case, tasks are assigned. Sometimes they're assigned by the processes that you create, and sometimes they're assigned by colleagues who need you to do something so they can move a case forward. In this case, we are looking at a task that says review and resolve, and we can see that there's an SLA against that that's passed already. So it lets me know that I've got an overdue task, there's an SLA violation, and I need to complete it. Okay, so I can complete that. I could say, all right, this looks good now, and complete the task. When I complete the task, it will go and execute the following step in the business process. And in this case, there will be another task that's created to go ahead and approve the price quote. And so we'll look at that in just a minute. All right, so here it shows the task that's been completed. And here are more tasks that that I still have to process against this case. All right, so it shows me what I need to do. It shows me what I've done, and two visual ways that are very helpful. This is also the place where you would create tasks for additional people. So I could say, you know what, I'm really going to create a task that you need to complete, and this is add pricing details to request. And I want that done by tomorrow, and I'm just going to assign it to myself again. So I can create a task and save it, and it'll create a new one here that'll show up in my to-do list that needs to get completed by me. So I'll get a notification that I have a new task that's been assigned by a colleague, and I need to complete it. You can also create processes on the fly. And so these are multi-step tasks that involve multiple people that are involved, that need to be involved with something that's going on. And so if I want to create an expedited process, I can do that. I can create users. I can assign it to users. In this case, it's just me, so I get all the tasks. And this is a user step, something I need to do. And so I'm going to say this is a review process, and I'm going to say this is a legal approval process, something like that. I would go and select a user. Maybe this time I would select someone on the legal team, and then I would select when that needs to be complete. And here it can either be a user step or it can be an approval step. When that's done, then this process completes and the overall process continues, or if it's rejected, it goes back to step one, something like that. You can add additional steps as you need to and keep growing this. So creating processes and tasks on the fly is an important attribute of your case management system, because your workers on the front line or people processing the case don't necessarily know which direction it needs to go that have been pre-planned out for them. They need to be able to manage exceptions as they occur and document those exceptions and processes that have an audit trail. So I just created a brand new process on the fly, and it created a task for me immediately to review this, and I can mark it as complete when that's done. Okay, here I see a brand new task has been assigned to me, and so I've got a task ID, and I can click this and log back into the system and mark it as completed. Next thing we'll look at are what are the processes that are there. So for example, we had an existing process, new customer request and quote process, and that's a running process. It's pretty standard. If I click on that, it'll show me a preview, and I can see where we are in a particular process. So here, for example, it's a national client, so it's we're going to send a price quote to the client. It's going to be approved, and then we'll send them the quote. And so I've got a user step, I've got an approval step, and I've got a business rule that sends out the quote. So I can click on any process and see what's been done. I can also get a full digest of all the steps that have been completed, date and time, who did it, and what the status is of a process and a task. So complete transparency is an important part of this. Next thing is attachments. Because we get content in different forms, those need to be an important part of the case. And so here I'm just going to attach a file, but really, this could be files that come in through emails. They could be files that are submitted through web forms. They could be files that are uploaded by a customer service rep. It doesn't really matter. When files hit the case, they show up and are attached to the case, and that can happen automatically. And then, of course, when you have a file attachment, the important usability feature is you don't want to have to download that to your drive, then try to open it with the right application. That takes time. It's less efficient. What you want to be able to do is quickly see the information from within the browser. And so whether it's PDF or JPEG or any of a number of other, almost all the file formats, you'll be able to look at those through the web browser and see the information you need. All right, so that's another big time saver. Finally, there's work logs. And so sometimes it's important to keep track of the work that you do as you're processing a case for reporting purposes within the enterprise, and so you're able to document those things. It's like, all right, we had a meeting discussing national pricing. All right, something like that, and the meeting took place here, and we spent 2 hours on it, something like that. So you can do reports, you can do dashboards, so you know, for example, how much time is it taking that are required to process a case for different types of requests, different priority of requests, different status of requests. You can look at it in different ways. And then, of course, because there's other systems that you're connected to in the enterprise, you can have quick links, and you can load these up. These could be helpful information that lets your provides a fast way to get to other things, whether it's a a view of customers, or you want to look up some information in another system, those can be put here as a shared resource, and then other people working on the case can do that. All right, and then let's take a look next at, we'll just go through a quick process. So we'll create a new one, and we'll just say the subject is, need new conference center chairs, something like that. And we'll just do new other chairs. And I'm going to say, well, I've got two options, big yellow chair, brown chair. We'll just do big yellow chair, medium size, and we're going to do 400 of these. It will place an order within the week. And okay, just some information there. I'll put my email address there so I get the notice. And let's place this request for this customer. So they've called in, I placed the request. All right, I got the acknowledgement email. Someone will get back to you pretty quickly, so stay in touch. Okay, I can pre-configure those notification emails, and so you can customize them with whatever content you want. Let's check tasks. You can see in my task, I have a task now on this record to review it. So I'll just go ahead and mark it as done. All right. This is the old task. Yep, here we go. We'll go back and open this record, tasks. All right, that's from the previous example. We're going to go ahead and do this one. We'll mark it as complete. Okay, it's following the process of now, once it's been reviewed, we need to go ahead and approve a quote. I'm going to go ahead and enter a quote amount, skipping a few steps for time reasons here. But I'm going to go ahead and say $45,000 is the quote. Save that. And I will approve the quote. Okay. All right. Next thing is, let's take a look at the tasks by manager. Open tasks by manager. All right, so some issue. Okay, so I should be able to approve this quote. We will approve a different quote instead. All right, some issue we're still working on. All right, so next the big thing is that let's take a look at next the ability to create highly structured information. So one thing you can do is when you're sending out these quotes and proposals, you have the ability to create PDFs, HTML, Word documents that merge the content that you've got in the case with content that you've created as a template. So here is a price quote. I put the variable in for the amount that's being quoted, and I'll just demonstrate how these can be used to go ahead and merge information from a record into a template. So here the value is 35,000. That's our price quote. We'll go ahead and print this. And it'll take that information, create a customized price quote that you can now either email to a user or you can print and distribute in a packet. The point is you can create highly customized proposals, and you can do that using the tools that you use to process that content every day anyway. Next feature I want to touch on is just reports and dashboards. And so being able to create reports on the fly is extremely important. Being able to customize those as you go, very important, so that you can make better decisions and see the information in the way that's useful to the account exec. So here I'm looking at my different orders by product. I'm going to go ahead and customize this report. And I've got the same user interface I used for views earlier, where I can now add and customize it as I need to. In this case, you walk through the wizard and you can make certain decisions. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to preview this report. And we can see that we've got yellow chairs and brown chairs. I just want a report that looks at brown chairs for now, just as an example. And so I'm going to define some criteria that lets me filter the values by product type. Okay? So product, and I'm going to say if the product contains the word brown, then I want to just see that information. Okay. So there we go. And I'm going to save this as a new dashboard. By brown product. All right. Here's my report. As new requests come in for brown chairs, they'll show up here. And if I want to extend that on my dashboard, I could say, for example, finance is interested in our brown chair orders, and so I'm going to pull that in and show that on the dashboard. Just an example. This is highly customizable. I've gone through several examples of what you can do to use the capabilities that are here. And so to customize it, you can add fields, add dashboards, customize views. And behind the scenes, you can add business rules, you can add processes, you can add templates. That's a longer topic for another webinar on another day. But I hope you find this user interface interesting and we're super excited about it. We think it's going to really make it easier for people to process and handle cases moving forward. So, with that, I think what I'll do is switch back to the presentation, and then we can take some questions. Just point out there's a few things that Software AG views as has as differentiators in the market. As you think about case management, this is certainly, I think, something you'll want to get your hands on and try it out. You're going to find it really interesting. Overall, being able to create dynamic applications on the fly and orchestrate all your application logic is something that we're really excellent at. We have smart products that can do machine learning, RPA, AI, operational intelligence, so you understand what's happening with the processes and applications that are going on. Very critical if you're running any kind of mission-critical application. It's connected. All applications can be connected through our industry-leading APIs and integration tools, and of course, being able to use this to connect to IoT devices is something that will be a subject of a future discussion. And then it's unified. So you can start with a low-code created, a subject matter expert created a case management system, and you're able to expand that into an enterprise style application, and that can all be done on one platform. And so dynamic, smart, connected, and unified, these are our differentiators. These are areas which you should consider as you're thinking about Software AG as your software provider. All right, we'd like to invite you to attend our product release virtual event. It's October 9th, 10th, and 11th. You go online to Software AG and look for the product release, 2018 product release. You can find the virtual event times in your geography. We, of course, invite you to download a complimentary report about digital process automation, which case management is a part of that. And then, of course, if you have any questions, you're welcome to talk to us. Here's my contact information. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. All right, so with that, I'll pass this back to Charlie.
Thank you very much, Rick. This is very exciting stuff. When is the new UI available? And also, is the new UI compatible with existing apps at this point?
Yeah, 100% compatible. So that's, as we take customers on this journey from, building applications on the platform and bringing them into the next next best, better user experience, we want to make sure that they stay on this journey with us. And so, yes, it's compatible. So apps you've created on Agile Edition will work just fine under the new user interface. So that's good. It's available right now to a couple of preview customers. This will be available generally at the end of the year. Something to start to look at. There'll be further communication from us about when you can try out the new user interface, when it'll be available to you. If you're a cloud customer now, there'll definitely be some more communication about when you can switch over to the new user interface.
Great. Okay, so how is data retention handled for a case along with all the accumulated data, as documents associated with a case are handled?
We have some options. One option, and it depends really on your case load. Of course, we can manage content in the case management system. So as documents are there, you have the option of when you close cases, you can set business rules to either retain that content or remove that content, or you can either do some work to offload that content to an external data share for archiving. So there's a couple of different options for you there. Likewise, you may already have a content management system that you're using that you want your documents to reside in and follow that document lifecycle. And so you can connect your case management system to an external document repository so that cases can reference those documents, but the files themselves are under the lifecycle policies of some other document management system that you have running somewhere else. As long as they're accessible through APIs, they're exposed so we can get access to them, you can incorporate them into your case management system.
So it sounds like that there's a mechanism or rules that can be used, for example, for an exception, like a legal hold on work done by an employee that may require to be held for a longer period until the hold is resolved?
Could be done, sure. So, for example, the different case settings are customizable, and you can set rules about who has the ability to access certain content. So at a certain point in a process, you can mark a case status as, hold or archive, and you can change the permissions. So maybe only, now it's not generally available as an editable case, but maybe, only one person in the enterprise has access to that hold case until such time as the time has expired. It's a very flexible platform, so you have lots of different ways you can configure it for the different types of business and best practices you have. And, I want to get into that in another webinar where we talk about how you would configure those things to accomplish those goals.
Okay, and finally, it sounds like, Rick, we can customize this as we have in the past with Agile apps.
Completely. Yeah, it's a visual environment. It's been one of the precepts we've used from the beginning, is that subject matter experts, non-technical people need to be able to customize their work so they can be the most productive they can be. And that involves, of course, if you've been given the permissions to customize it, you can customize it visually by adding fields and business rules and reports and dashboards and even editing processes as they need to be changed. And so Of course, everything that you do will be tracked and audited, so you can, in the case of processes, for example, if you make a process edit, since these are non-technical people doing the work, then in this case, you could roll back to a previous process if the one that you edited broke, for example. So it's very forgiving in that sense, and that you can always go back to the last, working scenario or process if that's what you want to do. And you can delete fields and add fields and so forth. So very forgiving, very flexible environment for non-programmer trained personnel.
Okay. Is this available on premises?
Yep. The same software that we run in the cloud is available on premises, and you can set it up and manage it there, or we can run it for you and manage it and upgrade it and do all of that stuff you would do on premises. We would do that for you in the cloud. So just depends on the customer preference how they want it deployed.
Well, that sounds good, and that's, I think, the answer someone was looking for. I want to thank Rick McEachern for this presentation today and that insight into what's happening with the new UI in the world of dynamic apps. We're going to return on October 14th. October 24th, and we're going to do a presentation on exactly how scalable our MFT solution is and how robustly it's currently being implemented. We're also going to be talking about file bots or agents for MFT, which is a very special use case. And since Rick mentioned it, in November, we're going to have a presentation dedicated to robotic process automation, RPA. And, of course, there's always a lot to talk about in our new API economy. And so we'll be doing that right after Thanksgiving on the 28th of November for APIs. Rick has shared his contact information. Please feel free to use it as he suggested. And if you have any additional questions regarding the series or want to find the series, we're on YouTube at YouTube/SoftwareAG. Thanks again for attending. We look forward to seeing you again. Have a great rest of